Today, I'm breaking down exactly how to find wholesale real estate deals, strategies that work in any market, cost nothing to use, and can lead to serious profits. These are the same methods I used to become a multimillionaire before the age of 30, build a $10 million real estate portfolio, and consistently generate over $500,000 a year in passive income. I'll also be walking you through a real deal using my personal wholesale calculator, the same tool I use to analyze every single real estate investment that I make, and you can download it completely free. Just click the link in the description. Whether you're wholesaling, fixing and flipping, or even buying rental properties, this video will show you how to find better deals, avoid costly mistakes, and earn more on every transaction. All right, so let me show you exactly how I do it step by step. I'm pulling up Redfin right now so you can see firsthand exactly how I find wholesale real estate deals in real time using just a few filters and a strategy that anyone can follow no matter what market you're in. This is exactly what I do when I'm looking for my next wholesale deal in any market, and I've wholesaled properties in over a dozen states. There are other tools like Zillow, Homes.com, Realtor, and LoopNet that you can work this exact process on. You don't need any fancy tools or expensive software. I'm literally doing this with free tools that are available to everyone. The key is knowing what to look for, and I'm going to walk you through all of that right now. All right, so I'm going to hop on Redfin, and I need to choose a random market to find some wholesale deals in. So let's just take a look at Knoxville, Tennessee, which I know has a lot of great opportunities and has been making headlines as a hot real estate market to invest in. It has affordable price points, a booming local economy, and a high quality of life. So that just makes it a great place to invest in, and that also means it's a great place to find wholesale real estate deals in. So first off on Redfin, I'm just going to type in the location. This is where it all starts on the search. So the first thing we look at is the map of the location. You can see there's an outline and it shows all of the available inventory in Knoxville, Tennessee, or wherever you searched. We can see that there are 1,712 homes right now for sale in Knoxville. So not all of these are going to make great investor opportunities. So it's about knowing what to look for and using the right strategies on Redfin and any of these platforms to go exactly to the best opportunities. So the first strategy I want to share with you today is filtering by price per square foot. Now, first off, let's just go and filter out some of the types of real estate that we're not particularly interested in. So I want to be looking for houses and multifamily properties, maybe even some townhouses. But I'm not going to look at condos, land, mobile homes, or any other types of real estate here. I'm also going to just kind of filter out, if you want to look at a certain price range, you use this price filter up here. So let's just look at deals under, $1 million. That's where the majority of housing inventory is for sale anyways. Okay, so once we have that, we can see that narrowed it down to 1,211 homes. So from here, we want to click on the dollar per square foot column right here. And again, we're in this data table. So a lot of times Redfin might default to this split layout that you see here on my screen, where you have the property photos on one side and you have the map on the other. So I prefer using the table view because you can see all of the stats on a lot of properties just all in one place. And that's exactly how we're going to sort through the data. I always like to say that deals are in the data. So right here is where we can see more data than in other views. So what is price per square foot? Price per square foot is simply the asking price of the property divided by the gross living area of the actual structure on that property. So the actual home, the square footage of the home. So again, it's the list price divided by the square footage, and that gets your price per square foot. So if you click on it once or twice, you can now sort by highest price per square foot to lowest. And if you click on it again, it goes from lowest to highest. So that's where we want to start. We want to start with the lowest price per square foot, because that is indicative of value, right? We're looking for value in the marketplace. We're looking for opportunities to buy properties below the market value and ultimately get them under contract so we can assign them for a profit or double close on them to another investor. So first off, we can see a couple of these deals pop up. These don't have a price per square foot because there isn't a square footage listed on these listings. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they're good deals or bad deals. We can see, this one looks like it's a duplex. This one looks like it's a fourplex. So a couple of these deals, this is a mobile home park. So if you're looking for these types of assets, then that could be a great opportunity. Let's just start with the ones that have a price per square foot listed. So this is selling for $92 a square foot asking price. Let's take a closer look at it. This is a single family home, 3-bed, 1-bath, 1,400 square feet. They're asking $129,000. First off, we can take a look at the photos, and this clearly looks like a fixer-upper just from the exterior. We can see there's this door to the basement. Looks a little bit sketchy if you ask me. And the staircase, looks like it's kind of crumbly. So clearly needs some work on the exterior to give it an attractive curb appeal. I'd say it kind of looks a little bit uninviting if you ask me. So taking a look at the interior, we see that it has the popcorn ceilings. A lot of times in older homes, that's actually contains asbestos. So that's one of the really nice things that home renovators and house flippers will do is remove that popcorn ceiling and remove that material from the property. So obviously there's a lot of debris on the floor. So this property wasn't really prepared to be shown in a good light. So it's clearly a fix and flip type of opportunity, a value add deal, perfect for anyone to wholesale to another investor. This kitchen looks very questionable. The flooring is some kind of very old, outdated material, and the cabinets are older, dirty, pretty disgusting if you ask me. So this is definitely not something that a conventional buyer, a first-time home buyer, or anyone coming in with financing is probably going to be able to obtain, unless of course you're using hard money, private money, or cash. So again, just a quick look at the photos. We can tell that this needs a full rehab, at least a cosmetic rehab, and possibly even more. So again, we can see the carpet here is absolutely disgusting. It's a very, very dark color with stains all over, and it looks like there's just chips from the ceiling, and I mean, who knows what. So, old panel here looks really rusty. And so you can see here, this is something new that we've been seeing lately, that they can actually show AI generated photos of properties. And when they do that, they're now required to disclose that the photos were AI generated. So you can see here, they're advertising this, or they're at least showing what's possible with the exterior. So that's actually pretty cool. And if they wanted to, they could even show that with the interior. So you can see what this could look like in the future. Of course, it hasn't been done yet, but that's our job as wholesalers, is to figure out what price works for a fix and flip, get it under contract, and deliver that on a platinum platter to one of our cash buyers. So taking a look at the listing description, we see this is an investor opportunity in Knoxville, Tennessee. Handyman special, single family home, strong potential for a fix and flip, rental, or value add renovation. The property features 1,400 square feet with 3 bedrooms and 1 full bathroom. Straightforward opportunity to add a second bath. Built in 1940, nice view from the front porch. Roof appears to be solid with no leaks. Okay, just some additional info. So this is all good. Again, we can confirm the year built, lot size 3920. So this is a great opportunity that I would consider looking further and then making an offer to wholesale. And this is just the first property that we saw using this filtering method. So let's just take a look at the next one. Okay, so this property right here is listed for $90,000. It's just under 900 square feet, 3-bed, 1-bath in Knoxville. And the price was just lowered by $10,000. So we know that that signals motivation. Let's take a quick look at the photos. It looks pretty rough on the outside. The roof looks like it's on its last few years. The gutters are kind of sagging. You have all of this stuff here on the front porch. So very poorly maintained property. Some of the siding is coming off and is deteriorating. So they don't even have photos of the inside. I mean, if the exterior of the property looks like this, I can only imagine how bad it is on the inside. So let's take a peek at what the listing description says. Great investment. This property is a 3-1 with the ability for a duplex since it has an unfinished basement that mirrors the upstairs. All right. It has an entrance in the front along with the gate, also located in the back with its own separate road. Perfect opportunity to make tenants feel like they have their own space. All right. So they're basically marketing this as either a single family opportunity or you can convert this into a duplex. So multiple exit strategies. These opportunities are great. If there's underutilized space, then this could be a serious value add for someone who's looking for a BRRRR type of strategy, buy, rehab, rent, and refinance, or just someone who's looking to fix and flip and put it back on the market to sell. This house is being sold as is, no repairs to be made. The front gutter has been rehung and we'll post updated photos. So let's also take a look at the price history. So it was listed for $100,000 and then almost a month later, or actually a little over a month later, they reduced by $10,000. So, this is a great property that we'd be considering as a wholesale. Like I said, it's a value add opportunity. It's not ready for an owner occupant or a retail buyer. So they are going to sell this to an investor. So our job as wholesalers is to identify these types of properties, put them under contract at an attractive price, and then flip those contracts to cash buyers. That's how we profit as wholesalers. Now, the next filtering strategy that I want to share with you to find great wholesale deals is simply filtering by price. So going back to the table here, I'm just going to filter out by price, going from lowest to highest. Now, this might show some properties that might not be very desirable because they're so cheap, but you never know what you're going to find. There's a reason that they're low priced, and a lot of times you're going to find the fixer-upper opportunities, the ones that are perfect for fix and flips. So we can see that that $90,000 property that we were just looking at is the cheapest priced property in the area. And again, I think we're looking at single family houses only. So let's take a look. Here's that other one over on Center Avenue. The next one here we haven't looked at yet. So this is on Ben-Hur Avenue. Discover incredible potential in this hard to find price range. Fantastic prospect for a buyer eager to add sweat equity or a savvy investor looking for their next flip project. Property is sold as is. Prospective buyers must conduct all inspections and due diligence before submitting an offer. All right, so this is clearly an investor opportunity. And when they make terms like that, like you have to submit a non-contingent offer, that typically means we can get a better deal. So if we look at the photos, we can clearly see that no one's even picked up the trash. Okay, so this is clearly going to sell to someone who isn't afraid to roll up their sleeves, who can take off the wallpaper and rip out the kitchen and really give this house a completely fresh new look. So again, just kind of scrolling through here, the carpet is just absolutely horrific. And it looks like there was some kind of crime scene that happened in this property. So you never know. Every house has a story. And if these walls could talk, I'm sure we'd be pretty entertained. So we can tell that this is an awesome rehab opportunity. The listing agent is marketing it as a fix and flip property. It even says in the description, this is a great flip project. Okay. So far we've discovered, 3 really, really great opportunities for investors that any of these would be an amazing candidate to wholesale to another investor and earn an assignment fee. And of course, not all great wholesale opportunities are going to be the cheapest properties in the area, but this is just a great way to find value in any market. So I would highly consider using this strategy when you're looking for deals that are below the median price point and are relatively affordable for your market. This is the kind of house that a fix and flipper wants to get into because they know that when they renovate the property, put it back on the market, that after repair value is going to be still affordable for the everyday home buyer, right? The median home buyer in a market. And affordability is absolutely key. We lack a lot of affordable housing in most markets, and it's very tough for a lot of buyers to qualify for the upper price range. So this is almost a safer price point for most investors to operate in. And so I highly recommend us wholesalers pursuing those types of deals as well. So moving on to the third filtering strategy, which is unique to Redfin. And one of the cool things about Redfin in general, and why I like using it as a first line of search whenever I'm working with a client or whenever I'm just looking at a brand new market that I don't know a lot about. So let's just go ahead and reset the filters so we're starting from scratch. So let's just take a look again, and we have nothing set on this filter right now. So if we scroll down to the home features section, there's a bunch of these boxes that we can check, but look, there's a fixer upper filter. So this next strategy is the fixer upper filter, which doesn't always grab every opportunity in a market, but Redfin has their own algorithm that will pull any deal that it deems to be a fixer upper, something that needs a renovation, something that needs to be improved, some value add. A lot of these are not habitable. So let's take a look at what opportunities we have here. We have a couple of the same ones that we already looked at. Here's a new one that we haven't looked at. Let's take a look at why Redfin says that this is a fixer upper. This is a 2-1, 720 square feet, selling for $159,000, at least the asking price is. So we can take a look here. Some of the landscaping is a little bit overgrown. Inside doesn't look horrific like the last house we saw, but the appliances are clearly worn in. Some of the finishes inside are outdated. You can see it has that ceiling tile that most people don't particularly care for. So this bathroom is definitely not something that I would particularly want to take a shower or a bath in. And I'm sure you as well, and no other buyer that we'd be selling this house to would also want to partake in that. So we can see that this house is clearly outdated, it's lived in. And so this is a prime candidate for a fix and flip. Let's take a look at the description. Investor special. Come put your personal touches on this 2-bed, 1-bath rancher in Northwest Knoxville. Property being sold as is. Seller makes no warranties or guarantee. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, back on market due to no fault of the seller. Buyer financing fell through. So this has already been in escrow with another buyer. So they're motivated to get the deal done, right? If you ever fall out of escrow and you go back on market, that usually signals something to buyers that something's wrong with the house, something isn't clicking. So let's take a look at the property history here. So it was originally listed for $200,000 in the beginning of 2025, and then they had to reduce multiple times until they took it off the market. They put it back on at 159. It did go pending immediately after that, so it looks like they priced it more appropriately, but then now it's been sitting on the market for several months. So it's very likely that because it's had such a long time on market, they fell out of escrow, that we'll be able to lock this up for a lot less than its current list price. So this is all really good data, and I want you to kind of see how I'm looking at these properties and some of the story data points that I'm gathering, even just from the listing itself. But of course, it's important to call the listing agent, build some rapport, and really understand the story with this individual property. So that gives us the best chance of actually getting a deal done. And I'll emphasize that this filter might not result in a ton of deals in your market, especially if you're in a smaller area. However, this is a quick and dirty filter, especially if you're looking at a much larger market with thousands and thousands of active listings. This is a quick way to just cut to some of the most distressed properties in any market. Now, the fourth filtering strategy that we're going to cover today is called price reductions. Now, on Redfin, you can filter out all of the properties in any market that have recently reduced price. This is exactly what it sounds like when a seller and their listing agent decide that, hey, we're not getting our asking price, so we're going to reduce it. And so this can happen at any time after they put the property on the market, usually after a few weeks, maybe a few months. They decide that, look, we're not getting the offers in the range that we like, nothing's happening, and we're more motivated to sell than when we started. So we're going to adjust our expectations and lower our price. So here we go back to the filters section, and I'm just going to reset. So now we see all of the properties for sale in the area. And then we just simply scroll down to the cost and finance section here. There's a price reduced box that we can check. Once we check that box, there's a drop down menu that allows you to sort if you want to see price reductions that just happened in the last day. So there's 49 homes that reduced price in the last 24 hours. If we can go to the last 3 days. Now there's 92 homes. So I also like to cross these with other types of filters as well. If you want to see all the fixer uppers that just reduced price, let's see if there are any. So no results there, but if we do anything that's reduced price in the last 30 days, we can see that there are 2 of them, one of which we saw. There's another one right here. Let's take a look at this one. So this says, this doesn't look too bad. So I wouldn't say that this is a total fixer just from the photos. Maybe it does need a little bit of work. And so we can see here, it does say TLC. So I'm imagining that Redfin picked this up because the listing agent says this needs a little bit of TLC. So, but overall, I mean, this looks like a livable property, pretty much move and ready. It looks like they did some improvements, although this doesn't look like a flip because there's some lack of uniformity in the flooring, and they still have kept a lot of the older elements of the property. And, I'm just kind of curious, like, what's going on with this thing. So looks like it last sold in 2003, and then now they're selling it in 2025, 2026. So yeah, not necessarily the priority that I would go after if we're looking to wholesale. So we'd go back and let's take out the fixer upper filter. And so now we can just see all of the homes that have recently price reduced. Again, I'm kind of looking at all of them right now, but let's just take a look at houses and multifamily properties that have recently reduced in the last, let's just look at the last day. Okay. So yeah, this one that we already looked at, this just reduced the price. So this is a prime opportunity to call on. Here's another one. This looks pretty turnkey, but maybe a little bit outdated. So it says price to sell, offers an excellent entry point for first-time buyers or investors looking for a strong value add opportunity. All right. Whether you want to renovate and flip, establish a reliable rental, or purchase an affordable primary, the potential here is substantial. Well, awesome. Yeah. Let's just take a look at the photos real quick. Looks like it has a newer deck, which I like. Yeah, you can tell that the interior is outdated, so this hasn't really been updated recently, but it does look relatively well maintained. I think we've already seen a couple of poorly maintained properties, in this video already, but this looks relatively decent. So, this has relatively good bones. There's some peeling paint, some chipping drywall. Obviously needs a lot of refresh on the interior. The exterior doesn't look too bad. We'd probably want to paint it a different color and clean up some of the landscaping and take a look at how we could improve just the overall curb appeal and outdoor living area. But this does look like it's on a large lot just from some of these photos. It's on an acre. So this is definitely a property that we'd want to look into further and determine if it's worth making an offer to wholesale. So price reductions are an amazing way to find motivated sellers right on the MLS. Now, the fifth filtering strategy is another way that you can find motivation, and that's long days on market. So what we can do right here on Redfin is actually go back to the filter section, and Redfin calls it time on Redfin. All the MLSs say days on market. It's really the same thing, just the time on market. So if we look at properties that have been on the market for longer than 90 days, then that will signal that these properties are not selling, and it's very likely that their price is too high. So when a property doesn't sell, it usually means they're not getting any offers that the seller's willing to accept. So in that case, they're more likely to accept a lower offer or at least entertain an investor type of offer. So the properties that we can see here, these are all 90-day plus listing. Let's just take a look at this first one. I actually really like this home because it looks like it has amazing bones. It does look somewhat move-in ready, but it is outdated. You can tell the kitchen, the tile, the cabinets, the counters, really everything about this home just screams it's in a time capsule. So this is something that wouldn't really be a modern home that someone would want to pay top dollar for. However, it is move-in ready. So you might be competing against other retail buyers who might want to purchase this with financing, do some of the work themselves, and build equity that way. So keep that in mind when you're pursuing deals like this. However, some of our best wholesale deals are properties just like this, where it's in great shape. However, it could use a cosmetic renovation. So I really like this house. It just feels good. Like it feels like it's in a nice neighborhood and it has a nice curb appeal already. So with a nice renovation, this could be an amazing project for any fix and flipper. Let's just take a look at another 90-day plus listing. Again, a lot of these homes, like even though they might look good and might look like great opportunities, sometimes sellers' prices are just out of this world. And a lot of times it's the real estate agent's fault, right? The way that real estate agents get listings, a lot of time, unfortunately, is promising that they can get a price that's just simply above market and really unobtainable, so that they get the listing and then eventually the seller has to reduce the price until they get to market value. And at that point, the agent still has the listing, but the seller might be a little bit let down. So keep that in mind as you're looking at these types of properties. This right here is a property that looks like it's relatively updated. So I wouldn't really prioritize this, even though it's been on the market for some time. It's not something that I would particularly want to go after, even though it was recently price reduced. Unless this fits your buy box as a rental or something else that might make it appealing to one of your cash buyers. So in this market, it doesn't look like there are a ton of older listings. In some areas, we do see a lot of properties that are just sitting. This tells me that homes are moving in this area. Inventory is flying off the shelves. And there's just not a lot of listings that have been on the market for more than 3 months. So that's a good sign for investors. It's a good sign for house flippers. And in some markets, you might see a lot more than this. So again, I encourage you to look at some of the older listings. That's just more reason to call and more reason to cut a deal with that agent. Now, the next and final filtering strategy that I want to show you how to find wholesale deals is simply using a keyword search. Now, this is available on pretty much every search engine that you have available to you. But on Redfin, you simply just go to the filter section again, and there is a box where you can enter in keywords. So the words that are usually indicative of a great wholesale opportunity include as is, value, rental, fixer, motivated, flip, TLC, contractor, and there's a lot more. You can use your head and just think, what would a real estate agent want to include in their listing description to market it as an investor opportunity? So let's take a look at some of the results when we type in the word cash. Cash is one of those things where a real estate agent might include the word cash flow. If they're marketing a rental, they might be looking for a cash buyer because a property won't actually qualify for financing. So let's take a look at this one. For example, this says investment opportunity. It's a manufactured home offered as is, cash buyers only. So in some cases, properties won't be able to get conventional financing and they'll put the word cash in that listing. So this is a great example of one of those types of listings. Let's take a look at some of these other properties. Let's take a look at this one here. Looks like a portfolio. So these are 2 multifamily properties together, 12 units across 2 buildings. One could be short-term rental. So this looks like they've put the word cash flow in the listing, which is why it showed up. So again, this is a deal that will sell to an investor, someone looking for rental properties and adding units to their portfolio. So you can absolutely wholesale rental properties, and you just really have to know how to analyze these deals and get them for a price that makes sense for your cash buyers. So let's take a look at some of these other ones just to get an idea of what else is listed as a cash keyword opportunity. Outstanding investment opportunity fully renovated 2-1. So this probably has the word cash flow in it. Yeah, offers immediate cash flow. So again, this might not be the absolute best wholesale type of opportunity, but you can see the types of deals that show up with the keyword cash. So let's also type in the word motivated, and keep in mind, different keywords are going to give you different results. So let's look at motivated. We've got 30 homes with the keyword motivated. So we can see this one says motivated seller, bring all offers. We've got this one, motivated seller, motivated seller. So this is exactly why we put in the word motivated in the keywords, right? And not all of these are going to be distressed opportunities. However, if the seller's motivated, then that gives you a lot of leverage when you're negotiating price and terms of your deal. So pretty much all of these have the word motivated seller in them. So you can kind of click through, and if you're familiar with the area, you can just look at any of these listings that are in neighborhoods that you're actually looking to buy properties in. Or if you're looking for deals for your cash buyers, then you can even get even more laser focused with some of the deals you're looking at. So let's take a look at just one more keyword and see what types of deals pop up. Let's take a look at TLC. This is a pretty common one that realtors use when they're marketing a deal that's geared towards investors and that needs work. Like I said, there's other terms, and I would just encourage you to use a handful and just see what types of deals and really just sift through and make a note of the deals that you're actually interested in pursuing. It says this home does need some TLC, but with the right vision, it can truly shine. Sold as is, giving you the freedom to bring your own creativity and style to life. So yeah, we can see that this is lived in, definitely needs some work. Can't really see much of the interior just due to it being occupied, but we can tell by the way it's marketed that this can make a great wholesale opportunity. So now we know how to find wholesale real estate deals, but here's the thing. This is where most people stop. They think they're crushing it just by finding wholesale real estate deals. But the hard truth is, finding a deal doesn't make you any money. That's just the beginning. The real value, the money-making part, comes from analyzing the deal. And that's exactly what I'm about to walk you through next. This is the stuff most people don't talk about or even teach. And honestly, it's probably because they either don't know how to do it or they don't actually do this in the real world. But I do. I live and I breathe this stuff. And I'm going to show you how I analyze deals step by step using the exact calculator I use on every investment. Plus, I'm giving you these tools for free to follow along so you can learn how to use it in your business and close profitable deals. All right, so let's just pick one of these properties that we already found. I'm going to choose this one on Fountain Crest Drive. This is the property that I actually really liked. So let's just take a look. Again, this is a 3-2, 1,621 square feet, asking $329,900. So the first thing I like to do is just look at the street view. This is how we can really assess the curb appeal of the property. So from here, looks like it's kind of on an elevated small hill. Looks very similar to the surrounding properties. It's in a nicer neighborhood. It's even higher, on a higher elevation than the neighboring properties across the street, which is good. Everybody likes to be the king of the hill in the neighborhood. So that's a good thing right there. Has some nice curb appeal already. Has a long driveway with a 2-car garage. So I like what I'm seeing. It's also important to look at the map to see what kind of properties are around it. Looks like it's close to a creek, which can be very good. Doesn't look like there's any red flags in the neighborhood. It looks like it's just in a residential area. It's close to some commercial out here. Looks like there's some restaurants and fast food and all sorts of retail over here. And it looks like there's, just like some industry over here. So it looks like a good area overall. Like this looks like a nice neighborhood. So I actually really like this house for that reason alone. It's also close to a freeway right here. So it's got a lot of good things going for it from the location wise. So I don't really see any red flags with this property. It looks like it has good bones. It would be a clean rehab. And it looks like the neighborhood overall should command some pretty strong values for the overall Knoxville area. So how do we analyze a wholesale deal now that we found it? Let's just go ahead and grab the deal calculator that we have. So again, pull up your copy now so we can follow along and I can show you exactly how to use this tool. So we like to start with the after repair value. So in order to find our after repair value, or ARV, we have to look at the real estate comparable sales, right? Real estate comps. So this just means the sold properties in the immediate area near our subject property. So this house is a 3-2, about 1,600 square feet on a 3rd-acre lot, built in 1970. It's single level. So ideally, we can find properties that are within half-a-mile radius, give or take, that have sold in the past 6 months, and ideally that have been renovated as well. So what I like to do is hop over to the map so we can find this map on Redfin and then click on this button that says nearby homes for sale at the bottom left. That'll open up a new tab, which centers around the subject property. So this will show all the for sale inventory in the immediate area. This looks like a small little pocket in the overall area. So I'm just going to zoom out and making sure that our subject property is right here in the center. So just to get a quick high level view of the area, I like to just sort the properties from highest to lowest price. And I'm actually going to only look at single family homes here. So home type should be selected as house. Now we can see 12 homes for sale in the market. And I can tell that there's a much more expensive home sort of down here on the south side of Cunningham Road. I think that's south. And so just like down here, we can see this, much more expensive property, which is not a comp. It's much larger. It's more than double the size of our house. And so that's not a comp, but just getting an idea of what people are willing to pay to live in a neighborhood like this. So we can see there's some houses at $550 all the way down to $313. Okay. So our asking price is around $330. So it is on the lower end for the area, which is a good thing. It means there's value. So let's look at what properties have actually sold for in the neighborhood. So let's go to the sold section here in the filters. We're going to look at last 6 months. So these are all the properties in the area that have sold in the last 6 months. And this is where market value is realized, right? It's not just the asking price of a property, it's the sales price. That's ultimately where a buyer and seller had a meeting of the minds, they settle the transaction, and that's really where property value is derived from. So we can sort by the square footage of the sold properties and find properties that are also in the same size range as the subject property. So ours is about, just double checking again, ours is about 1,600 square feet large, 1621.32. So let's try to find similar houses to this one. And so we see there's a 32.5, 1,700 square feet. It's kind of over here on the other side of this freeway. So it might not be the most comparable neighborhood, but let's just take a quick look at this one. This looks like it's in pretty good shape, not renovated, but looks like it has an updated kitchen, which is nice. It is lived in, so they're not going to get absolute top dollar, but it does look like it does have some updates. So this one sold for $325, which would tell me that, compared to this one, and again, the neighborhood might not be exactly the same, but compared to this one, ours would need to sell a lot lower than what it's currently listed at. Now, looking at this property, this is a 337 sale, slightly larger than ours is a 4.2. Here's a 450. This 450 is a little bit down Cunningham Road, so a little bit further out. So ideally, we want to find comps in this immediate area. And so we can see that there's this 360 sale on Fountain Crest, which I believe is the name of our street. Yep, Fountain Crest. So this is a 4.2.5, 1,537 square feet. And this one sold for, it says 360. Okay. So we don't have any pictures of this, but if I really wanted to dig into the data, I would call that listing agent and understand what happened with this sale. Was it a renovated property? We can also take a look at the price history here. Doesn't look like it was a fix and flip. Looks like they had listed it for $375, ultimately sold for $360. Let's take a look at the other comp in the area. There's a 352, 1,800 square feet. And we can see that this one looks like it does need some work, but looks like it has maybe some newer flooring, newer paint. So they did some updates. Looks like the kitchen's clean, but could use a little bit of an update as well. So while this isn't the perfect comp, we can still use these as data points to really understand what values are going for in the area. Across the street, we've got a 305, much smaller house, but this does look like a newer build. So I would venture to guess that this is a 2025 property. So this is pretty much a brand new home, sold for 305 and much smaller. So I would say that, our after repair value is probably not going to be a whole lot more than what they have this property listed as. We see here's a 450, larger than ours is a 382.5, but it is a newer 2-story home. So again, not the best comp, but it does show that people are willing to pay more to live in nice houses over here. So we can kind of go outside of this area. We see a 500 sale. We see a 423. So these houses look quite a bit different. So that's why it's really important just to stay in the same neighborhood if possible. I'll even go back as far as a year just to see what else has sold in that area. So we might be able to find some other comps that can help really understand what this property can be worth after it's fixed up. Here's that 360 again. So nothing new. We do see this one. Here's a 415. This is a 2-story brick. Looks like it's pretty decently updated. So that's a nice comp in the 400s. Here's an interesting one. This is a single level, which is kind of what we're looking for. Sold for 362. Very similar profile to ours, does not have a garage, not completely updated either. So, I would probably argue that ours could sell for something in this range, conservatively, just because it was kind of built in the same era, similar lot size. This one isn't totally updated. And again, it's not the most recent comp. So I don't love using comps from, like a year plus ago, because by the time our cash buyer renovates the property, puts it back on the market, that's going to be, 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now. So let's just say that we really dial in our ARV, we do the research, and we determine that we can realistically have this property resold for about $360,000. So I'm going to use that as a pretty conservative ARV just based on the data we're seeing. So I'm going to plug in $360,000 into our deal calculator. The next up, we want to determine how much is it going to cost to rehab the property in order to fetch that $360,000 price point. So in doing deals all across the country, talking to a lot of cash buyers, we've developed a price per square foot model that is pretty accurate for the sake of submitting wholesale offers on these types of properties. So for this price point, for this style of home in this market, I would put a number of about $35 per square foot of living area to rehab this property. So again, if we look at the subject property, we've got 1621 square feet of living area. I'm just going to simply multiply that by $35 to arrive at about $57,000. So again, considering this is a pretty clean house, I don't imagine that it's going to need any structural or, very large big ticket items, then I would say that that's a pretty solid rehab budget to make sure that this house sells for top dollar after we renovate it. So I'm just going to plug in $57,000 in the repair cost line item, which should give us more than enough of a cushion to submit our wholesale offer and give ourselves a chance of actually getting a deal done on this property. Then we're going to plug in the hold time. So this is not our hold time as wholesalers. This is the end buyer. This is the hold time for the fix and flip project, because this calculator is essentially a fix and flip calculator. We just get to add our wholesale fee in as a project cost. So my rule of thumb, for every $10,000 of repair costs, I add a week to the project timeline. So for a near $60,000 rehab budget, I would estimate about 6 weeks in rehab time. But that's not it. You have to also consider, once you put the property on the market, there needs to be some marketing time. So I'd estimate about 30 days for marketing time and another 30 days for a buyer to close on the property, especially if they're using financing. So with that, that puts us at about 4, and I'd like to round up to 5 months. So I would say 5 months is a very realistic hold time for a fix and flip project just like this. Then we want to add our holding costs. So we have property taxes, and if we're not sure what the property taxes are on a property like this, then I just simply go back to the listing itself, because we can see the property tax info right on the Redfin page. So if we scroll down, property taxes are $865 a year. So that might not actually be the case when we buy this property for a higher price than the current owner bought it for. So I'd probably just ballpark about, $100 to $150 a month. So let's call it $1,600 for the year. And insurance, I like to ballpark around $200 a month and another $200 for utilities. So our calculator will take the annual amount of the property tax and spit out the total property tax amount expected to be paid over the 5 months of hold time. For the insurance and utilities, you want to put the monthly amounts, and then it'll calculate again how much is expected to be paid during the whole time of the project. If you have any cash for keys, legal eviction costs, that would go here in this line item. Any other miscellaneous costs, permits or other fees, that would go here. Whatever the project might actually need, you can put any miscellaneous costs there. If there's an HOA, which this house does not have, then you would put in the monthly HOA fee right here. Closing costs should be about 1%. If you're in a very low priced area, then you might want to bump that up to 2% just to be safe. Now I like to ask one of my favorite questions. How much do I want to make on this deal as a wholesaler? So then we have to plug in our wholesale assignment fee in this cell right here. So I generally like to shoot for about $15,000 per wholesale deal that I do. So I'm going to plug in about $15,000. So I know that this project can support the fee that I want to earn on this deal. So whatever you want to make, if that's $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, or even $30,000, go ahead and plug that into this cell so that you can make sure that whatever offer you put in on this property can support whatever wholesale fee that you want to earn. So now that we have all of our numbers plugged in, we can go ahead and massage our purchase price into the deal calculator. So let's just start with $200,000. Let's just see what that might look like. So that would be a great deal. So the list price was, I think, around $330,000. So this would be quite a bit of a discount. but let's just work our way up to where we can see what a satisfactory return is for our cash buyers. And this is why it's so important to know who your buyers are ahead of time. And that's why we always teach to find your buyers first, because if you don't know what their minimum profit expectations are on a deal like this, then how are you going to know what purchase price makes sense? So let's see what the deal looks like at $250,000. So this would produce about $11,000 in profit, which wouldn't be very attractive. So it's going to be between this and 200,000. Let's look at 220. So this would produce about $41,000 of net profit on this fix and flip. If a buyer came in here, they paid $220,000 for the house. They paid us $15,000 as an assignment fee, spent $57,000 on the rehab, and got it done in 5 months. That would put their total investment at about $297,000. And with an exit value of $360,000, they'd be netting about $41K. That's pretty attractive. The deal ROI on that is about 14%. So again, it all comes down to what your buyers are looking for. Some buyers might say, I need a 30% return and I need $100,000 per deal. So that probably doesn't really make sense in this market. But if you're in a much higher price market, a 6-figure profit might be the norm. I like to work with buyers that are okay with around a 10% deal ROI, because that means they're more realistic with their numbers and allows me as a wholesaler to be much more competitive when I'm out there making offers and creating opportunities. So once you really understand what kind of returns your cash buyers are looking for, you can fill this out with confidence and know exactly what offer price makes sense to put on a property just like this. This will ensure that when you get a property under contract, that the deal will go smooth and you'll earn exactly what you're expecting. And that's how you find wholesale real estate deals using the same strategies that I've used to build real wealth in real estate. If you haven't downloaded the deal calculator yet, don't miss it. It's completely free and it gives you the power to run numbers like a pro on every deal you come across using the exact methods I covered in this video. Just click the link in the description or head to realestateskills.com/calculator to get your copy. Forget the outdated 70% rule. That's what most beginners are using, and it's making them lose deals and leave money on the table. With this calculator, you'll be more competitive, more calculated, and way more profitable. And if you're serious about taking your real estate investing to the next level with the coaching, tools, and step-by-step support that you need to build a 6 or even 7-figure business, check out our Ultimate Investor program at realestateskills.com/ultimate-investor. I've dropped that link for you in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the other side.